Hey, how's it going? Today, I want to share with you 5 things that I took away from living 8 months in a halfway house. Hey, what's up? Please ignore my cold. I got some type of upper respiratory thing, but feeling okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and record this. But yeah, man, when I was 19, I got checked into my second inpatient treatment center. It was in Little Rock, Arkansas, and it was kind of wild that I even wound up there. Little Rock was pretty far away from where I lived in Mississippi. And so I went in for 30 days, and the plan was I was going to go for 30 days and then go back to my sophomore year of college because band camp was about to start. And I would be a few days late, but I checked it in with all my professors and stuff, and so I'd be able to do the 30 days of treatment and then go right back into school because I had a scholarship for music. And I did my 30 days in the treatment center, and I had this sneaking suspicion that if I was to jump right back into school, I would not make it. I would relapse back into the drugs and stuff, and I just kind of knew right in my gut. But then I also had the scholarship waiting on me, and these professors at this music college that were expecting me to come back. And so I remember it was a thing of deliberation and prayer, but I just made the decision, even if I lose the scholarships, if I never get to go back to school, I've got to get clean. I've got to get sober. And so it was a hard conversation to imagine having. I picked up the phone, I called my music professor, and I told him what was up, and I said, "Man, I'm so grateful for this opportunity, but I'm like, I don't know if I'm gonna make it if I come back, and I got to do this for me." Long story short, they were like, "You know what? Take as long as you need to, and when you're ready to come back, let me know, and we'll figure out your scholarship stuff." So it was crazy. It was one of those like God moments early on in my journey that I was like, "Wow, like God's for real," But anyway, I moved into a halfway house it was like right at 9 months, 8 or 9 months. And so I lived in a huge shared house. It wasn't like a facility. It was like that big creepy house off of Fight Club, if you've ever seen that movie, with like 10 or 12 other guys. And I was like 15 years older than the rest of them. All that to say, what I thought was going to be one of the craziest, scariest, like weirdest seasons of my life ended up being one of my favorite years I've ever been alive. Was my first year of getting clean and sober. And a lot of people don't have that same experience. I did. But listen, I lived in this big halfway house. There was guys all over the place. They were just from every different walk of life. And I want to share the 5 things that I learned from that almost year of living in that house. And the first one is this: structure matters. So we had chores, we had meetings we had to go to. There were like drug tests that we'd get randomly popped with. And there was all these rules. All this structure was built into the way we lived. And at the time, you're just like, whatever, I'm just going to do what they tell me. But in retrospect, I can see like how important structure is to our life. Now, whenever I get down in the dumps and I'm like depressed and like everything's like falling apart, I can take a look at my life and I see that like I'm getting sloppy with the way I spend my money. I'm getting sloppy with the way I spend my time. I'm not getting to sleep on time. I'm skipping workouts. I'm not praying and reading like I should. Like I'm just losing that discipline. And structure matters. I'm not saying that having a perfectly structured life means that like I'm not gonna have any problems and everything's perfect. But for me, like there is a level of structure and discipline that I need to apply to my life to really live my best version of myself. So the first one was structure matters. The second thing that I took away from that season of my life is that friendships are essential. So obviously now I'm a pastor. I work in a church, and all the time I go to workshops or leadership things, and I talk to our staff. We have conversations. We talk about the necessity of having relationships. Like the Christian life, like any type of life, just doesn't work without real relationships. And so we try to plan relationships and schedule relationships. We'll do life groups and hangouts and parties and all this stuff in order to foster relationships. But like when I think back to that year of my life, I didn't have relationships. I had friendships. I had deep, friendships with those guys in that house. It was like we were brothers. I mean, I think it was like probably because we were crammed into the same space. We had to go to the same meetings. We were all part of the same program. But I think it's because we were all like going after the same thing, and we were all so grateful to be like clear-headed and clean. And man, those guys, I have never been closer to a group of guys in my life. Like years and years. That was like 12 or 13 years ago. And I still, maybe there was once or twice where I was surrounded by those type of relationships. But man, friendships matter. And right now in my life, like I can get so busy and so full of stuff that like I at best have guys like I'll check in with, and these are my old friends, but you know how hard it is to make new friends. But man, like there's no way around it. Deep, meaningful friendships are essential to being happy, fulfilled, and to move forward in life. Thirdly is this: we are all just a little bit crazy. Everybody is crazy a little bit in some way. We just aren't all crazy in the same ways. The guy I lived like in the same room with, so we stayed like 2 or 3 per room. I got lucky. There was just one other guy in my room, and he was like a chef. He was like a famous chef or something, and he totally wrecked his life because of drugs and alcohol and like smoking crack or whatever, right? And so, but he was like meticulous to the degree where it was frustrating. Like he was a legitimate neat freak, and he was so cool, and we would talk and talk and talk, and then there was over this little thing we would like click, and it would be like major friction. And like every day he would dust his room. And I'm not talking about like clean, I mean everything he would dust, and he would just look, and he was like nuts about it. And he would not only dust, but he would like shoot me these like condescending glances from across the room of like, you non-duster, you dusty, loser. and it was just like, dude, it taught me like this dude is totally cool, but absolutely crazy about the dusting. And there was another guy who was he worked, I think he ran like a car dealership, like a big like car lot. Another really cool guy, but then he got promoted to being like the house man, so he's like the leader, within the house, and it just like it all went to his head, and he went crazy, and it was just like I just saw, and that was another example, but so many examples where these really cool guys are just insane and just cannot see reality for what it is in whatever area of their life. And I've learned that's like everybody. Nobody is not crazy. Everybody has at least one thing where they are just completely off their rocker when it comes to this. And you know what? Like being able just to like be cool with people, and you know what? I don't have to fix you. I don't have to change you. You can just be insane in this area of your life, because I'm sure I've got areas of my life that don't make any sense to you. But everyone is a little bit crazy, and I've learned that from being in that house and seeing it in the real world. The fourth thing, and I'm wrapping this up, is that, what is it actually? It's our weaknesses that bind us to one another. Our weaknesses are actually what bind us to one another. Since then, I've really enjoyed social media, and I love how I can connect to people, and I've met so many amazing people all over the world in the United States through social media, and like I have real relationships with these people now. It's awesome. But what I've also kind of learned about myself is that I want to put my best version of myself out there, right? I want to put my very best, my most motivated and like consistent version of me for the world to see. And it makes sense, right? You're not going to go show like to the world like, my life's falling apart, But I feel like it's kind of changed the psyche of not only me, but the people that I know and hang out with, is that we've gotten really, really good at being the PR spokespeople of our own lives. Like if I was a company and I had a PR, a public relations specialist that wanted to kind of put this facade for everyone to see, I feel like that's what we have learned to do with our lives. And to be retrospective and to think about myself, like that actually pushes people away. Like if we want to make relationships, having this perfect like facade of everything being just so like polished and squeaky clean and stuff, that doesn't draw people together. It actually creates like a separation between the people I want to connect with. I connect with people that are real, that talk about their struggles, that like let people into those places of their life. And when I think about it, like the most that I can engage and connect with people is when I'm being real about my struggles, and I'm just being, fully human and letting people know like this is what my life is really like. So it's our weaknesses that bind us and connect us. And so I think that's pretty cool. And last but not least, the fifth thing that I learned from living in a halfway house for 8 months is that sleepwalking is real. Sleepwalking is real. I'd never heard of like someone that literally slept, like was a sleepwalker. Like I heard stories and saw it on the TV and stuff, but never really met anybody. We had a guy that was supposed to be an intense sleepwalker, but we never saw it. And so one night we're all downstairs watching TV, and this guy walks by, and he's kind of mumbling to himself, and everyone's like, okay, that's kind of whatever. And then he does another round, and we're like, huh? And like by the third or fourth time that this guy kind of walked around, someone was like, he's doing it. So we're like, oh man. So I just went and like watched him, and he walked by me, and he was like mumbling under his breath, and he was totally asleep, and he was like far away from his bed, just doing laps. Now, I didn't know you weren't supposed to, like, wake up a sleepwalker. So I was like, hey, man. And he like, made a crazy noise. Boom, hit the ground. And then I expected him to get up. And I actually thought I killed him. But no, he was just, like, laying on the ground, dead asleep. And he wasn't even going to wake up. So I was like, all right, we got to get this guy up. I woke him up. We went to bed. Sleepwalking is very real. And so that's it. The 5 things that I took away from living 8 months in a halfway house. It's crazy I don't talk about it more, because that was literally one of the coolest seasons of my life. And the things I learned and the way I grew, couldn't compare it to anything. I'm grateful for where I came from, and I'm really looking forward to what God has for not only me, but for you too. Thanks for watching this video. I hope you're having a great 2020. And if you liked it, please hit the like button, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and maybe share this video with somebody that might be thinking about maybe working through substance abuse, addiction, whatever. I'm here. If you have questions, hit me up. God bless.